There's a lot of concern about the reputation of the church these days, but I think some of the solution is in our hands, and it's a solution as old as the church itself. Frankly, essentially, it's about being faithful to what we believe. And I think there are three things here that are critical. First is love one another. The early days of the church, what made the church stand out from the rest of the community around it was that Christians cared for each other. People used to say, see how they love one another. The way we treat each other, the respect, the kindness, the care we have for each other is a visible sign of what we believe and attractive. It's not attractive to have ourselves fighting, squabbling, forming in groups or little cliques. It's not so hard. We can disagree, but with respect, with reverence. But a visible, deep, committed care for each other is the first thing we need to do. Secondly, and this is as old as the church and older, to be a people of prayer. The scripture tells us, pray always. Jesus' whole life was a rhythm between action and prayer. Prayer not as telling God what's necessary or what we want, but the prayer of listening deeply, of allowing the very centre of our being to be a place where God resides and we encounter God, so that God's presence in the very heart of us emerges through us. We become a transparency to something greater than ourselves, individually and together. We can't afford not to be people of prayer. It's the thing that goes first from our schedules. We watch TV, we go to clubs, we play sport, but we can't afford not to immerse ourselves in this deepest reality of our whole faith, to let God flow through us to each other and to others. Profoundly convincing, but at the heart of our discipleship. And thirdly, to love our neighbour. Again, it's nothing new. Jesus, telling the story of the Good Samaritan, and he was challenged about what loving neighbour meant, made it clear that our neighbour is every human person, especially those in need. We are all children of God. If we're too focused on ourselves, on our own internal concerns, on our small concerns about finance or curtains or church halls, while the world around us struggles and suffers, and we don't make a response, we're not faithful to the gospel. We're not proclaiming what we believe by our actions. But all through history, a community of Christians who deeply care for each other and show it in concrete ways, who are immersed in prayer, individually and together, and whose lives reflect that, as St. Anthony of Egypt did when he emerged from the desert shining with the presence of God. And a community that gets into the world and cares for the poor and the needy and shows love. They're the things we need to do. That's always been the path for Christian life. It's nothing new. We don't need more committees. We don't need more commissions to do that. We just need to be faithful to what we believe. And the point, of course, is not, we don't do these things in order to win people back to the church. We do it to be faithful to ourselves. But in doing that, God will do the rest. I haven't invented this. It goes back to Jesus, who, when challenged finally, and somebody said to him, look, what do we really got to do? All the rules and regulations, what's the one we really have to follow? He said, very simple, love God with all your heart and mind and soul and strength, and love your neighbour as yourself. Same for us today.